What does my garden look like for 2023? Today I'm going to be giving you a tour of my garden, but there is something different about my garden as opposed to last week because I went out of town for a few days, well, I should say nearly 2 weeks, and I came back to my garden to see what's going on. So as you know, some of my garden has an opening in them so that the rain can fall in there and keep them moist. Some gardens do not have, some of the raised beds do not have opening, so I leave the door up so that it can get air, and so that the wind, depending on the direction that it's blowing, might blow some rain in there. So I must be honest, I messed around in here just now because this is my Scotch bonnet bed, and if you recall, I do have these volunteer squash growing in here, and they pretty much took over the entire bed, so my Scotch bonnets are not doing well. They're flowering, but they're not fruiting because they're overpowered, and so the pollinators cannot get to them. So I just pull them out and put them in another bed. But I have quite a few squash that I see growing in here, which is why I didn't take them out instead of the peppers. They are flowering and they're producing, so I'd rather those that are producing stay. So I'm going to have to make a bed for the rest of the Scotch bonnet that is in there. And then over here are my tomatoes, and I'm not sure what the story is with these tomatoes, but these are the ones that were in the garden that had the mosaic virus. They're still producing. Look at that one. It looks so weird. It's just so flat. But when plants have mosaic virus, it can affect the shape of your food. And then I'm not sure what that is, what's going on there. So I'm going to have to look into that. But as for my long sweet peppers, they are doing well. If you look at the tomatoes, you could see that they are flowering. They're flowering a lot, but they're just barely fruiting. And they have been doing this for at least 3 months. But they're not fruiting. The mosaic virus, as far as I know, does not affect the fruiting of your plants. You can still harvest from them, but for whatever reason, it's not fruiting in here. I don't know if maybe the bed is too hot because it is fully covered, apart from when I leave the opening up. But my long sweet peppers, I am quite pleased with those. And this is my calamandin tangerine or mandarin, whatever they want to call it. I'm not sure. I bought it from the supermarket, but it seemed to be doing quite well. It is flowering. I bought it March. No, I think I bought it last year in the fall, and it had a few tiny sour ones on it, and I kept it indoors, and now it is outdoors and looking quite good. So I'm just gonna let it stay. I noticed that if I have plants and they're having issues like pathogens, it will affect the tomatoes, but my peppers hardly ever seem to be bothered by them. And I think this is my balm chili pepper, and they are producing as well, so that is exciting because I used up the last of the seeds that I had, and they're not easy to obtain. So I put the Scotch bonnet peppers that I pulled out in here to join those ones that were there before, and I also had a squash volunteer in here over in that corner, and I root it out and put it in the bed that I just showed you. And these are my amaranth, and I don't know if it is because they're in this greenhouse setting why they are so yellow, but for whatever reason, and I keep putting my own organic fertilizer on them, but I'm just gonna keep doing that and see what happens. But they have doubled in size in the week and a half that I've had them, because what I did is I have compost that I collect from the kitchen, or food scraps that I collect from the kitchen, but then I noticed it started to have fruit flies in there, so I didn't want to give it to my worms to get the fruit flies in my worm bin. So I just fill the container with water and let it sit for a day and use it to water the plants. And in 1.5 weeks while I was away, because I watered it the day before I leave, these, have I been saying tomatoes? My callalus, they have doubled in size, but they are still yellow. And down there are more long sweet peppers and carrots. Now look at, let me just close this down. Look at my corns. Oh my goodness, these guys are looking so good. And these ones grew 1.5 their height in the time that I was gone too, because the entire garden got fertilized with that compost tea that I made. And the squash in here, they're volunteers as well, and they are flowering. Over here, my potatoes are being eaten. Look at that. Look at it. It's just being decimated by whatever, I think it is, snails, because there are a lot of them in this region because it is so damp here in Prince Rupert. But they are doing okay apart from being eaten. I don't know what's going on with this squash, but that is how everyone that grows on here end up looking all soft and mushy. And I think the same thing is going to happen to this one right here, because as you can see, the flowering part of it is already going mushy. And if it's not going to do well, I'm just going to pull it out. I'm going to give it another week or so to see what's going on with that. Over here, this is the bed that was covered with the white whatever that is called. I can't remember at the moment, but anyway, the wind got a hold of it and decimated it. And these are my potatoes, and this is my regrown cabbage. Just look at it. Oh my gosh, so much foliage. It's not folding though, but it is folding, but there's a lot of them on there. As you can see, that's one, that's two. This one isn't folding yet, but there are about 4 of them on here. This one is trying to fold. That's another regrown. And this is my Chinese cabbage that I started from seeds, and during my absence the snail had a real good go at it. Poor little thing. But I'm gonna try and see if I can keep it for the seeds, and pretty soon I will be harvesting my pak choy seeds. Now let's go take a look at the final raised bed. Now this is my lettuce and brassica bed. The carrots are doing excellent. The kales are doing excellent as well. And let's see, do you remember these? These are the seeds that I planted that is supposed to be red radish because that's what is on the pack, but it's not. And I harvested these and cut them right down to nothing, where all it was a little stump you would expect to die. They decided they're going to grow back, so I don't mind that. That's actually a plus. And this is my romaine lettuce. Now over here, this is one of the cabbages that I'm trying to regrow, and it is regrowing quite funny looking, doesn't it? Isn't it? Yeah, but at least it is regrowing. Over here we had the red radish that I got from the supermarket that I was regrowing, and during my absence it seemed as if the snails got to it and it is all just rotted out. The snails ate everything off it. This is another cabbage that I'm regrowing, and look at what the snails did to it. The poor thing didn't even have a chance. So I'm hoping though that I can at least get some seeds, but I'm not going to worry too much because I'm going to be planting things indoors right throughout the year. So I'll just get store-bought items and regrow them. Now let's look at my lettuce. These are my romaine lettuce, and you see what's happening there, right? Look at this plant. Just this plant alone, I took 3 slugs off it just now. 3 slugs. And as you can see right there, here's another little one that needs to be destroyed. So I'm gonna take that one out and crush him. And this seemed to be happening to most of my lettuce, unfortunately. And that's just 1.5 weeks I wasn't here, and look at what they did to it. Look at the poor leaves. Look at that. This one is folding, and it is looking quite good too. It does have an issue. Oh, what is that? I don't know that. Is that a farmer snail? Yeah, I've never seen that type of snail before. And this is where he gets his funeral. Yeah, so this is what is happening in my garden. So I'm gonna have to race. I really wanted these things to fold, but if they're gonna be eaten, I'm gonna have to get in a race with these snails so that I'll be able to harvest. And I'm really glad that I set up these raised beds here, because as it is my first year in this region, I like to know what issues I can expect down the road so that I can plan for it, which is why I went out of my way to ensure that I had a garden this year, being my first year here, so that I can get some experience. Because when I get my own place, if we do decide to stay in this region, then I would have some good enough experience, and I talk to the locals quite a lot to get their opinion and their experience on what happens in the garden here. So one of the things that I've decided is that I'm definitely, if I'm going to be staying here when I build my house, I'm going to be building a greenhouse on it, a heated greenhouse, so I can grow year round, and snails and slugs won't be able to get in, certain pests won't be able to get in. I will bring in my own pollinators and make sure that I have stuff to feed them. But yes, that is the plan. As for planting outdoors, time will tell. Let's see what happens with these gardens, because I raised them up off the ground. They're 2 feet off the ground to ensure, well, this end, because the land is very slopey. Prince Rupert is a mountainous island, so this side is 2 feet off the ground and the other end is like 1 feet off the ground, and that is the case with all my raised beds. So following the slope to keep the beds level, it is 2 feet on one side, 1 foot on the other side, and so they are raised off the ground. At first I was keeping all the grass away from the beds, because most of the time the snails crawl up on the grass and the other plants that are there and feed on them, and then because those are touching against the bed, then they have more contact points to get onto my raised beds. And I was keeping underneath them clean as well, but I have been so busy in the last couple of weeks that I haven't had the time to ensure that the grass and other plants are not touching against it. Yes, they can climb on the legs of the thing, but it would be less contact points, which means less slugs and snails will be getting up there. But that is not the case. So anyway, I'm just giving you an update on what is happening in my garden. This is the August 2023 update. So if you enjoy this video and you'd like to see more of what is happening in my garden, please take a moment to give me a thumbs up. You can leave a comment in the section below, and if you're new to my channel, please subscribe and turn on your notification for more updates like these. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have yourself a wonderful day. Yeah man, time for go. Okay, before we go, just letting you know that there will be an update or an upgrade to my channel, and I'm going to be doing a video about that, and it will be released soon so that you can see what changes will be made to my channel for the benefit of my audience. So thank you for watching, and until I see you next time, stay safe.